Oh my goodness, Bear. I fell asleep. Oh, I have been working so much extra in the toy factory trying to get ready for Christmas and I must have dozed off. Oh, you brought a friend. Well, how are you, little Bartholomew? Oh, what happened to your arm? Oh my goodness. You should play more carefully with the other bears. Well, I was about to read Bear Chapter 7 of The Littlest Elf. You can join us if you like. I suppose Bear has already filled you in on the first 6 chapters. So we'll just get going right now with Chapter 7, The Bargaining Elf. Now I think I'm going to need my glasses. That will help. Oh my goodness. Oh, goodness sake. Okay, here we go. Chapter 7. Acorn faced Snarky with a desperate look. How? Was all he said. What you got to trade? Snarky replied. Trade? Why should I have to trade anything? I rescued you from under the bridge. I didn't ask to be rescued. You told me to climb up the rope and I did. That ain't no rescue, Snarky said as he turned his back on Acorn. Besides, you cost me part of my treasure. I cost you? She's who cost you your treasure, Acorn said as he pointed at Sassy. Why don't you ask her to pay you back? Acorn was starting to get pretty upset. After all, hadn't he been the one to rescue Snarky? Hadn't he been the one to help get the fairy to stop crying? Why should he have to trade anything? Sassy flew up into the air and right into Acorn's face.
Don't you go blaming this on me, you mean old bug eyes?
Poking Acorn in the nose as she yelled this. Turning to Snarky, she said,
Why don't we just leave old bug eyes here?
Hey, wait a minute! If it hadn't been for me rescuing Snarky, you'd still be stuck in that egg.
What egg?
Sassy asked. The one that, Acorn was about to say. No, let's not discuss such things in front of children. Have you no manners? Snarky said, quickly cutting off Acorn.
But I want to know,
Sassy said stubbornly. Later, both Snarky and Acorn replied. So, what you got to trade? Snarky said, trying to get the conversation back where he wanted it. Acorn could see that there would be no reasoning with this silly troll, and he certainly didn't want this fairy poking him in the nose anymore. Let me see what I've got. He reached into his sack and began rummaging around. How about this? He said while holding up his partly burned charcoal pencil. How you trying to fool? Snarky was standing back with his hands on hips trying to look important. He was pretty sure that's how you're supposed to look when trading for things. It's already partly used. What else you got? Oh, for goodness sake, Acorn mumbled under his breath. What could he possibly have that this troll would think was treasure? Then he found it. His marble. Well, maybe, he started to say as he was slowly pulling something out of his sack. He wanted to make Snarky think he had something really valuable this time, even if it was just an old marble. Maybe this, he cried as he pulled the marble out of his bag. Now remember, Acorn was only 6 inches tall, so the marble in his hand looked almost as big as a bowling ball. It was a cat's eye marble with a deep green color in the center. It twinkled as it reflected the starlight and the blue glow from Sassy. That ain't nothing special, Snarky said.
Ooh, pretty. Gimme.
Sassy cried as she flew up to the marble and began admiring her reflection in its surface.
Please, Mommy, please.
Nothing special, huh? Acorn said as he dropped it back in his sack while starting to turn away. Guess I don't have anything to trade. Sassy let out a horrid scream that any parent would recognize as coming from a child that wasn't going to get what they wanted. Acorn pretended to ignore it while Snarky was covering his ears. "Oh, for crying out loud! Make her stop! Make her stop!" "She's your fairy. You make her stop." Sassy was preparing to draw in another breath. All right, I'll trade for goodness sake," Snarky yelled before Sassy let loose with another scream. Acorn reached back into his sack and pulled out the marble. Sassy quickly zipped over and grabbed the marble away and was promptly yanked down to the ground.
It's too heavy!
Sassy was struggling to dig the marble out of the snow. "There you go, my sweetie," Snarky said as he pulled some sparkly dust out of a bag he had tied to his waist. "Mommy will fix it." Snarky sprinkled a few grains of dust on the marble, and Sassy was then able to pick it up. "Hey, what is that stuff?" Acorn asked as he leaned over to look in the bag. "No snooping!" Snarky shouted as he closed up his bag of dust. What Snarky didn't want Acorn to know was that he had a bag of pixie dust tied to his waist that he had stolen some time ago. Remember, children, that nothing good can ever come from stealing, as you will soon see. People who steal things will always lose something in the end, even if it's the thing they stole.
Whee! Looky what I got! Looky what I got! I got a marble and you don't!
Sassy sang as she flew around in loops and turns while admiring her reflection in the marble.
Looky what I got! Looky what I got! Na, 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 na. Oof!
Sassy's song was cut short when she flew into the bridge. Let that be another lesson, children. Always be mindful of what you're doing.
Whee!
Sassy's cries touched Acorn and Snarky's hearts, so their laughter was cut short.
Why'd you make me do that, you nasty bug eyes?
Yeah, why'd you make her do that, you big meanie? Snarky said with a chuckle. There, let Mommy make you feel better. I'll keep that mean old bug eyes away. Snarky picked up Sassy and straightened out her bent wing and pulled the marble out of the snow and gave it back to her. Acorn just didn't know what to say. It seemed like he was always going to be the bad guy with these two, so why bother trying to defend himself? Well now, Snarky, I believe you owe me some information. You said you could help me get back to Santa's sleigh. So, how do I do this? I never said that, he replied. Did so? Acorn was starting to get a bit short-tempered at this point. He'd been made the bad guy no matter what he did or said, and now he'd just traded away his best marble for nothing? I said I knew someone who could help you get back to Santa's sleigh. He was standing with his hands on his hips, trying to look important. Okay, so who is it and where are they? Acorn asked in his most patient voice. I'd like to get back to the sleigh tonight, not next year. All right, you don't have to be so bossy. We needs to go find Magnolia, said Snarky. Magnolia? Who's Magnolia? Where can I find her? Acorn was now just starting to sound a little impatient. He, not her, Snarky said importantly. Magnolia's a he. Magnolia is a flower. Only girl elves are named after flowers. Don't you know anything? Acorn was sure now that Snarky had been pulling his leg. Magnolia flowers grow on magnolia trees. Gosh, don't you know anything? Snarky shook his head. He ran away from the North Pole years ago. Said he didn't like being teased for his name. Acorn understood what it meant to be teased. He'd been teased for years for being so small. Let that be another lesson to you. Don't tease. You might really be hurting someone's feelings. So, where can we find Magnolia? Is he nearby? It's not far, maybe 50 miles or so. 50 miles? It might as well be in the next country. How are we going to travel 50 miles in one night on foot? Acorn was really flustered by now. If you can imagine what it's like to travel even 1 mile on foot, and you're very tall compared to Acorn. When you're 6 inches tall, then 50 miles can seem more like 500 miles. Acorn sat down in the snow and was about to start crying. What was he going to do? 50 miles ain't no big deal. We can call an Uber, Snarky said, trying to reassure Acorn. What's an Uber? Acorn asked. Not an Uber, an bird, Snarky said, waving his arms like a bird. Okay, so what's an bird? Acorn couldn't really see the difference in what Snarky was saying. In fact, he was pretty sure he was even more certain now that the troll was pulling his leg. He's a big bird that will take you wherever you need to go, as long as it's local, Snarky said in his most informed sounding voice. You don't get out much, do you? During all this, Sassy had been buzzing around much more carefully this time, admiring her reflection in the marble.
Ooh, I want an Uber,
she said. Oh no, not again, Snarky said. Look, Acorn, all you have to do is download a nap, then you give it to the Uber, because those guys never get enough sleep. Then they'll take you wherever you want to go, as long as it's local. Download an app? What are you talking about? What's an app? Acorn was really confused now. Download a nap, Snarky said very slowly. It was pretty clear to him now that this elf just wasn't used to the world outside of the North Pole. I ain't never heard of no app. So, how do I download a nap? Acorn was starting to get more and more frustrated. Silly elf, you just need an elf phone. Snarky couldn't believe that Acorn had never heard of an elf phone. Everyone had one these days. What, for goodness sake, is an elf phone? Snarky was shaking his head as he reached into his pack. Such an ignorant elf he was dealing with. Here you go, he said as he handed Acorn a small rectangular device. Just hold it up to your ear and empty your mind for a minute. You have to go completely blank and ignore everything while I talk to you. I watch people do it all the time. Acorn looked doubtful, but held the elf phone up to his ear and immediately went blank. Snarky started just chatting away about silly things, and within a few minutes, a soft white glow popped out of Acorn's ear and was sucked into the phone. You don't want to do that too often, you know, Snarky said in his know-it-all voice. That thing is not unlimited. You're only allowed so many minutes a month. What now? Acorn asked, looking a bit dazed.
Looky!
Sassy sang as she flew around Snarky's head with her marble. You don't have to do anything now. Once you download a nap, the Uber can find you, Snarky said while trying to bat away the annoying fairy.
Looky!
Sassy was pointing up in the sky at a large albatross as it was circling in for a landing. Acorn had never seen such a large bird in his entire life. Its wingspan had to be over 10 feet. The bird banked through a long turn and began a dive straight at our small trio of companions. Oh, goody! Finally something to eat! It cried as it dove toward them. Said both Snarky and Sassy screamed as they scrambled behind the bush, leaving Acorn standing alone as the giant bird dove toward him. Oh my goodness, Acorn looks like he's really in trouble now. How is he going to deal with that giant bird? Oh my goodness sakes. Well, boys, I think it's about time we got ready for bed, you know, because we have still a lot more work to do in the shop tomorrow, you know, and well, I think I'm just going to